This is real. This is fake. Real. Ooh, I don't know what this is. This is facing a crisis, and this is a billion-dollar empire. The story of these two parallel worlds originating from the same sport explains so much about media, culture, fandom, and the future of sports. And at the center of it is a critical question that needs to be answered. How did a fake spectacle win over a very real sport? So pro wrestling is a bit hard to categorize. It is one of a kind with its exaggerated characters, some of the most unsophisticated ways of fighting, and the fake drama that goes beyond the ring. We can see parts of it in other sports as well, like the larger than life characters in UFC, and some boxing matches are allegedly rigged from time to time. But with all of this, it's important to note that at the very core of it, pro wrestling is not a sport. Historically, yes. In the early 1900s, pro wrestling technically did begin as a real competitive sport. It grew out of something called catch-can wrestling, but it was a legitimate grappling style wrestling brought over from Europe. And at first, these matches were genuine contests, played at carnivals, fairs, and athletic clubs, and the best wrestlers actually earned reputations for being unbeatable. But the moment wrestling hit big crowds in America, it stopped behaving like a sport. Now, some of the promoters realized quickly that if they controlled the outcome, they could control the bets. And with those large crowds, that could mean a lot of money. Pretty soon, matches became staged, and the wrestlers, they played along, because in that world, it meant a steadier pay. Professional wrestling was becoming a great spectacle. On the other hand, real competitive wrestling still kept happening for the love of the sport, but it was unpredictable and exhausting for the players. You might win, you might lose, you might get hurt, and you had no guaranteed income. But a staged match, you could perform safely knowing the outcome, entertain the crowd, and actually make a living. And this is really the moment when wrestling split into two parts. Amateur wrestling doubled down on legitimacy and rules, while professional wrestling doubled down on showmanship, money, and spectacle. One stayed a sport, the other became a business. Now, when we talk about real wrestling, which is weirdly still referred to as amateur, it's technical, it's athletic, and it's real. But honestly, if you don't deeply understand it already, it's kind of tough to watch. Most of the action happens in tight, tangled positions. Sometimes the matches look like two people hugging aggressively. And at first viewing, you can't really understand what the points are being awarded for. And there aren't many hero moments like in other individual sports like tennis, gymnastics, or athletics. That's a big problem. Amateur wrestling never really adapted to being a spectator-friendly show. Now, don't get me wrong, it's technically brilliant, but emotionally kind of flat. And that's why it struggles to pull big audiences. Now, to compare it to a sport like chess, which until a few years ago also couldn't find its footing largely because of the same reasons, people found it boring. But then it got its Netflix moment with the Queen's Gambit, and the pandemic boosted the sport thanks to mass lobbying by streamers and online competitions. Amateur wrestling, unfortunately, is still struggling to pull in any kind of big audiences. It actually almost got cut out from the Olympics back in 2012. When the IOC reviewed all 26 core sports, they used criteria like TV ratings, youth relevance, digital engagement. But wrestling, despite being one of the original Olympic sports, ranked dead last in multiple categories. There was just no lobbying for the sport. Meanwhile, in the same world, pro wrestling is becoming a massive carnival. It was everything amateur wrestling needed to be. Loud, theatrical, dramatic, and addictive, and built to make even a casual viewer feel something. Now, there's something very critical that pro wrestling got right. WWF, as it was referred back then, acted as a cultural chameleon built to attract. Now, in the 50s, with the first television boom, Gorgeous George invented the idea of wrestling characters when he first entered the ring looking like this. But it was 30 years later when, through meticulous planning and strategy, it became a cultural lens for the fans. In the 80s, it was all about the patriotic heroes. In the 90s, rebellion and attitude. In the 2000s, it was reality TV and internet drama. And today, it's all about social media and short form clips. WWE is known to be self-aware. They didn't just evolve. They kept reinventing itself for whatever culture wanted. And it continues to do the same till today. But the man behind this genius, Vince McMahon. Before Mr. McMahon stepped in, pro wrestling to some extent was built on the idea of deception and lies. But after buying the WWF name from his father in 1982, this guy comes in and says,
even though we call ourselves sports entertainment because of the athleticism involved, the key word in that phrase is entertainment.
So McMahon turns WWF into a self-aware, open book kind of entertainment. He's like, yeah, it's scripted, so come and enjoy the show. And that honestly made WWE even more relatable for its fans. It was like theatre for people who were not interested in it in the conventional form. But there was still a code of conduct that made this openly fake entertainment carnival work. The secret way of performance on and off the arena is called Kayfabe, which is obviously derived by twisting the phrase be fake. A lot of people say it's not, I say bullshit. Back in the day, wrestlers had to stay in character 24/7, kind of like method acting. It was to give an impression to the audience. While they know that things are mostly scripted, they can still detach themselves from reality and tie into the emotional truth that the performances are trying to convince them of. And it worked wonders. Wrestlers became icons and the characters lived through eras. But today, with social media and behind the scenes access, WWE has evolved. And so has the idea of kayfabe. They're not trying to fool anyone now. In fact, WWE, under a new set of leadership, has made itself more transparent than ever. They've partnered with Netflix, securing the future of broadcast for the next decade. And even though it's not a sport, it does tie into the ecosystem quite well. Formula 1 received a massive broadcast boost after Netflix aired Drive to Survive for the first time. Even in football, fans are more excited by transfer news than they are about match outcomes. In the end, here's the big difference. Amateur wrestling gave us technique, reality, and truth, while WWE gave its fans an emotional crutch. It's like watching a superhero movie. We cheer on these superheroes when they are tossed around the city, demolishing everything. And we're not made to think about the people in the buildings or the homes that they are turning to dust. Why? Because spectacle beats reality. It always has. And that's why, in a world full of unpredictable sports and random outcomes, which I love by the way, WWE delivers a story that's always sure to make emotional sense. All of this while amateur wrestling is still hanging by a thread. It's waiting for its moment where it can move on from collegiate tournaments to a global spectacle. I hope that happens. But here's a thought I want to leave you with. Pro wrestling embraced spectacle because gambling made it profitable. That was 100 years ago. Fast forward to now, and the likes of NBA is under massive scrutiny because betting platforms are getting injury data and lineup information before people are. And the people are starting to ask whether real sports are drifting into a narrative territory. So maybe WWE wasn't an outlier. Maybe it was a preview of where sports were always headed. Hey there, thank you for watching till the end. If you've not subscribed yet, please do so. It's the only way I can continue to bring you more interesting stuff like this. I'm still exploring a few ways to build out the channel. So if you have any suggestions for content or stories, drop it in the comments and I'll see you next time.